Hello and welcome to Game of Moans, where each week we're looking back at Season 1 of Game of Thrones, an episode of a time, and dissecting it. I am Chris Bolton, with me as always the Mountain, Mr. Mark Williams.
What's up?
And this is episode 7, so it stands to reason that we're looking at Season 1, episode 7, You Win or You Die.
Yeah, no, I thought this came earlier in the run, this episode, just because the title of the episode is part of a quote which gives the show its name as well, where Cersei says, when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die, there's no middle ground. I thought it was much earlier on, because I thought it set up the whole show much earlier. It's a bit on the nose, it's a bit cheesy, to be honest. I get annoyed when films do it.
Yeah, there's nothing cheesier than people speaking the title of a film or a TV show. And yeah, it full on feels cringeworthy when we get it here.
Yeah, it's very early on in the episode as well, isn't it?
It is. It's very cringeworthy. It's very early on, and the episode just gets worse from there, I think. I was not a fan of this one. I think probably even more so because I was such a fan of last week's episode. This just felt like coming back down to earth with a real crashing thud for me. But let's get into it. For me, first and foremost here, we get this scene with Jaime and Tywin Lannister. This is the first time we meet him.
Yeah.
Not a terribly interesting introduction to the character, really. He just doesn't do a great deal at all, does he?
Well, he does. I mean, he's sort of gutting or skinning some form of wild beast that he's killed, and that's the most interesting about the scene. But the problem is they put that in because the scene is so fucking dull.
This whole episode is like that. It is dull.
It's shock factor.
Dull as dishwater. The only thing, as you say, about this scene, he is making a fairly good job of skinning the animal, actually.
And apparently that's genuine as well. Apparently it was a freshly killed deer that he'd had like an hour or so with a butcher before, and that was his training. And he actually did a decent fit. He made a decent fist of it, apparently. Yeah,
it looks like I know nothing about skinning animals, but it fucking looks convincing to me. If that is genuinely an animal carcass and they are genuinely skinning it for the sake of a TV show, that's fucking wrong, you monsters. And I'm no vegetarian, but that is just fucking wrong.
Well, maybe it died of natural causes. Maybe Mark Addy farted near it and it keeled over.
Maybe, I don't know, but that just seems a little excessive.
I'd imagine it was one that was I would imagine they didn't have one killed especially for it. It was probably a case of they're down at the abattoir saying that when one comes in round about that day, can we have it?
I guess, but it's also just more the fact that there's a whole animal's worth of meat there that somebody could eat.
They probably did.
I was
to be fair,
I would like to hope that carcass was donated to some form of
Dothraki.
Yeah. I would like to think it was donated to some form of charitable organisation afterward, if it was,
or the crew.
Or the crew. I'd rather think it went to actual starving people, since anyone on the crew is not exactly going to be short of a few pennies to rub together.
It's only season 1 though.
True, but I mean, they're still in unions. They're still getting paid. Maybe not massive bank, but they're still getting paid.
Yeah, it's going to be union, isn't it? It's going to be a decent.
It's going to be a decent wage. It's going to be a living wage anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, apart from that, the only real interesting thing, which is something that, hate to say I told you so, but I've been calling for weeks here. Jaime flat out says that he wouldn't kill Ned. Tywin says to him, why is he still alive? And Jaime just says it wouldn't have been clean. There was interference. It wasn't an honourable kill. And there's Jaime's character right there, as I've been sort of insinuating for, as I say, the last 7 weeks now. He's not a bad guy. He's really not. I don't know why people think he is. His motivations are just different from those of our heroes.
Yeah, and I think that the fact you've got, like Tywin says, well, why is he still alive? Oh, it wouldn't have been clean. Yeah, but why is he still alive? It's that people don't get it because it's such a ruthless, such a cutthroat world that they're inhabiting, that it is almost honourable. And so that people aren't used to it, and especially from a man who stabbed a king in the back. People don't expect him to be looking for this graceful, honourable, decent, sort of moral killing.
No.
So I couldn't take his head off because it wouldn't have been fair. If I'm going to kill him, I want him to lose. I want him to lose a fair fight, and he would have had it not been for that dickhead who stabbed him in the knee.
Yeah, absolutely. Ned's life was saved by somebody stabbing him in the knee. There is no doubt about that. Jamie would have taken him down otherwise, I think.
Oh yeah, he was on the verge, wasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And this isn't who wins, but in a straight fight between the two of them, I think I'd have to give it to Jamie. He's got youth on his side. He certainly looked like a better swordsman in the fight they were having. So
I was going to say in the fight they were having, he looked. No, don't get me wrong. No, Ned gave it a good go, and he made a decent fist of it. But I don't think he could have kept going for much longer. I think he was starting to blow. He was already getting a bit worn down. And whatever he threw at Jamie wasn't coming out, so he would have lost it eventually.
I think so. But yeah, that's about the only thing of interest with this scene.
Also, the quickest episode of Who Wins we've ever done.
Yeah. There you go, in the battle between Jamie Lannister and Ned Stark. Jamie Lannister's the winner. Okay, well, that's us for the week then. Fuck it.
Yeah, happy days. See you next week. It was an interesting scene in as much as having now gone back to it and rewatched it, and knowing the arc that the story will take, especially with the Lannisters, and seeing how involved Tywin will become. It's interesting to see how they sort of frame him from day one. And there's lots of talk from Tyrion early on about my father this, my father that. Cersei mentions their father and their bloodline quite often, and so to actually meet him, it's quite interesting to see how how he comes across. And I think Charles Dance makes a decent effort, or he makes a good run of what he's given.
Yeah.
And I think as we go through the next season and a half, that'll pick up because the work he does actually improves quite a lot. Yeah,
it does. I credit him, in fact, for the kind of slow heel turn of the Lannisters, or at least of Cersei, actually, because the other two are absolutely fine. But at this point in time, I mean, even towards the end of this episode as well, which we'll get to when we get to it, I still don't see the Lannisters as villains. I just see them as different.
Yeah, they're just the other side of.
They're just the other side of the coin.
Argument.
Yeah, absolutely. This. This could be anybody's story still at this point. It's not like there's a set family here that we have to root for the Starks. I'll be honest, there's a little bit of me, and especially in this episode when Ned is the dumbest motherfucker on the planet.
Oh, absolutely. We'll come to that in a minute, but what the fuck was he thinking?
Yeah, several occasions in this episode, he deserves everything he gets just for his actions in this episode. But yeah, there are several times I just flat out think I'm on Team Lannister, to be honest. And I remember feeling that when I first watched the show as well, actually, between the two families. Early on especially, I kind of was swayed towards the Lannisters.
I think the problem is that you are, through the way the story is being told, especially the first season, you are automatically positioned to align with the Starks, to follow the Starks, to support the Starks, because they're noble, they're honourable, they're somewhat idealistic, ideologically challenged, shall we say? I think that Ned is a bit too naive to be in the position he's in.
Certainly, yeah.
But generally, you are positioned in a way that you're going to root for them because they're the ones who have been downtrodden. Their son gets thrown out of a window. Kat's sister's husband is murdered. She gets attacked, all the rest of it. You are automatically positioned in a place where you say, right, okay, these are the ones you've got to root for, and these are the ones that are doing it to them. And it's in that respect, I sort of draw a comparison. I've done this in the past, and people look at me as if I'm fucking stupid, which what else is new? But there's a comparison here with Romeo and Juliet, because in most things that are written, you are positioned to align with one side, and here there are two very clear sides who you could go either way for.
Yeah, I can see that.
You wouldn't be wrong in either way.
Yeah, I can see that.
I know there's a reason I did the show with you, because nobody else agrees with me on that.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. I think it's more elegantly done in Romeo and Juliet, but then
oh yeah, absolutely,
no duh. This is Game of Thrones, not Shakespeare. But yeah, I can definitely see that. I think there is more of an attempt, as you say, to paint the Lannisters in a villainous light than you would do with a Montague or a Capulet, but it's definitely there. You can go either way with these houses, and aside from Arya, At this point, I don't think there's anyone in House Stark that I'm really rallying behind. I'm not counting John because he's off at the wall now. He's his own thing.
Yeah. And the dogs don't count because they're not written for.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I kind of prefer the Lannisters at this point. I certainly prefer Tyrion and Jaime. So...
Yeah, I mean, the Lannisters are more interesting. I mean, if you look at direct comparisons, you've got Tyrion and Jaime and Robb and whoever he's around at the time, because we're not doing much with Bran. Was it Rickon, the younger one?
Rickon, yeah.
I think he's been seen once because he's like 4. And then you've got fucking Theon, who's acting like he's the big I am up in Winterfell when he's actually nobody. So you look at those characters, now you look at Tyrion and Jaime, who are far more interesting, far more rounded, and have far more to do.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
And when they are on screen, it doesn't feel like a chore. Whereas when you get any of the Starks on screen, with the exception of Arya, you think, "Oh fuck, right, okay, this is going to be a real slog."
They're all so fucking miserable, and that is the biggest problem with this episode. It is miserable. Like last week's episode popped along at a decent clip. It was funny. It was action packed. It was great. It was a fun time. It was 50 minutes of good escapism. This is a fucking funeral dirge by comparison.
By comparison, yes, although I will say it's better than episodes 4 and 5.
Yes, I would agree. But only marginally. You're saying that? I don't know if I do agree. I think this is the episode out of all of them so far where I have been clock watching. I was watching it thinking like, oh, for fuck's sake, really? There's another 20 minutes of this? Like, either stay at the wall or just get on with it, because everything else in this episode is horse shit. The stuff at the wall is fine. You know, I like any time we're at the wall. That's, as I've said several times, that's the most interesting storyline to me. But even that this week, and we'll get onto that when we come to it, even that was a little bit of a dirge.
Yeah.
And that is an error in writing more than anything else, which we'll come on to. But anyway, moving on with the episode. We get into this scene with Ned and Cersei, and Ned makes just the stupidest, most dangerous power play possible.
But it's not even a power play, is it? It's like, I'm going to make what I'm telling you now. I'm going to have a go.
Yeah.
When the king gets back, which could be in fucking months, because we don't know. I'm going to tell him that you've been fucking your brother and his kids aren't his kids.
How does he actually make that fucking jump? Because
he's got blonde hair.
Yeah, but
obviously,
blonde and blonde. Like, this isn't the fucking Iron Master race. You don't necessarily need 2 blonde people to make a blonde person.
No, that's like we said. I think we said a couple of weeks ago. Just because the Baratheons have traditionally got darker hair doesn't mean their genetics are stronger than the Lannisters. So there's no guarantee that just because all the Baratheons before him ever have had dark hair, that a kid with Cersei would automatically have dark hair.
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense.
Now, here is the first major plot hole that we've identified, and the first instance of just incredibly fucking dumb writing and poor characterization, okay? Because this can go one of 2 ways. This, if you're going to follow this scene, you can go one of 2 ways, both of which are stupid.
Yeah.
Either Ned has made a huge leap of faith here and put 2 and 2 together and miraculously managed to make 4, right?
Yeah.
In which case, he then goes on to further it and say that Bran knew, and that's why he was pushed out of the window. Now,
yeah, where the fucking hell did that come from?
Yeah, and if he has known that all along, and this is the other way you can go with it, why the hell has it taken him 7 fucking episodes, which is presumably like near enough 7 months in showtime?
Well, yeah.
Why is it taking him this long to actually bring that to anyone's attention, or to work it out and put it all together? Like, if he knew Jaime pushed Bran out of the window, either he knew flat out that Jaime and Cersei were fucking, in which case, what was with all the Sherlock Stark stuff?
Yeah.
Right? Or he knew that Jaime pushed Bran out of the window, and it's taken him 7 months to realise why, in which case, you're a bad father. Because surely if you know that Jaime's pushed him out of the window, you're going to be all over that shit.
Well, yeah, you kill him first and you find out why later.
Yeah. Or he's just now pieced all of this together, and then backtracked and thought, oh, that's why Bran conveniently fell out of the window when the two of them were in Winterfell. In which case, how the fuck, again, how do you make that leap? Like...
Well, yeah, I mean, the only thing you could think is that obviously Cat came down from Winterfell to King's Landing to tell him about the dagger, and there was this thing with this single strand of blonde hair, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah, there was a pube on the dagger, wasn't there? Yeah.
Which obviously, that's part of the equation as well. Now, I'm not being funny. You find a single blonde hair in an area of the castle which is apparently fucking easy to reach because anybody can get up there. Cat got up there, Jaime and Cersei got up there. Can't be that difficult. So what's to say that, Rob or John or Theo are taking horse up there for fucking ages?
Well, I mean, there's only one whore and she's a redhead.
Well, yeah,
Roz has not been up there. So...
Yeah, so that's apart from that she's ginger. There's always that possibility as well. So these are huge leaps of faith.
Massive.
On
and
Ned's
they
behalf.
make no sense, and they leave plot holes that you can drive a fucking bus through.
They do, but also it shows how inept that they are writing these cat and mouse political things, because you don't show that hand.
No, he's the worst poker player ever. Like, to actually, as you say, to flat out tell her that he knows and he's planning to tell Robert as if he's going to threaten her. It's like, you fucking, you idiot.
And again, like we were told last week, there is a plot to kill the king. The king is in danger. We've had this from Varys, the last week or the week before, so we know this already. Now, at this point, you've managed to Sherlock your way to the Queen is shagging somebody else and has had children who aren't the king's, and somebody is trying to kill the king.
Yeah,
it doesn't take genius to work out there could be a link there.
It makes no sense. This scene is dumb as a fucking bag of rocks, and Ned is dumb in it, and Cersei is bad in it, which is very rare. But she is bad, and her delivery of when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die, just lands with a resounding thud. Face palm. Seriously.
Absolutely,
you want to mention the name of the show, you don't need to do it on a big dramatic scene ending. You gently slip it into the dialogue and let the fans pick it up and run with it. Yuck. And as I say, it's even worse because it's coming off the back of last week's episode, which you just know this would have been handled a lot more deftly by the right people.
Yeah.
But anyway, it isn't, so on we go. Tits. We're now at the most pointless and useless scene in the entire show to date.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I quite like lesbians on television. It's something that I can appreciate. I can see why people appreciate it. Even I was fucking bored.
What is the point in this scene?
There's none whatsoever. I mean, I've been doing some reading about this today, and this is the scene of the entire show. This is the one that's been branded as most pointless.
It is entirely pointless, and it's embarrassingly bad as well. Littlefinger is awful in it.
It's uncomfortable to watch. So, I mean, and it serves no purpose because we already know that he has this massive history with Catelyn Stark, and he's still in love with all the rest. We already know that, so we don't learn anything from that. We know that Roz is a whore. She's gone to King's Landing. Is this like an audition? What the fuck is the point of it? This entire scene, this entire 5 minutes could have been scrubbed.
The performances are terrible. The dialogue, once again, I'm not blaming anyone for this other than the writer. The dialogue is bad. You can't polish a turd.
The dialogue is bad, but also it doesn't need to be there. No, there's no need for the scene whatsoever.
We already have all of this information.
If you feel the need to put this exposition in, then do it in another way. There's no reason to have...
We've said it, we've said it countless times, haven't we? Their exposition is dreadful. And I can only think that the only thing they want to highlight here is that Littlefinger has a thing for Cat, and so kind of has a little bit of a jealous streak for Ned and shouldn't be trusted. That can all have been handled in 1 or 2 lines of dialogue.
But I don't even think you need it.
And I don't see why it has to be directed at whores in amongst such gems as... That's it. Play with her arse.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah. What? And the thing is, I'm not being funny. If you're so adamant you're going to do this scene, get some porn stars in who know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah. It's embarrassingly bad. Everyone involved in this scene top to bottom, should be absolutely embarrassed that they showed up to work that day. It's awful. I cannot believe this is the same show as last week at this point.
But again, this is the writing, and this is people who have, again, they have no business trying to adapt characters or trying to convert characters in a way that don't need it. They, for the sake of brevity, for the sake of moving your TV show along, you don't need to put in what would have been probably a chapter of completely unnecessary bullshit.
Yeah.
And then go, actually, this scene doesn't go anywhere. We've already had this information 3-4 weeks ago. What can we do? Oh, we'll throw some tits in it. That'll make it all better. That'll make people pay attention.
I mean, it does literally feel like it's that, unfortunately. You know, we've spoke about the attitude towards women on this show already, and I'm sure we will do several times more in the coming weeks. But this really does just feel like an excuse to exploit women.
It does. There are two parts to it. I mean, so from the criticism I've read, is one is the fact it's incredibly exploitative. There's no need for it. It just, again, it shows how, you know, the attitude towards women, especially working class women, or lower than working class women, and also it's a bad tool for delivering exposition.
Awful. I mean, even as I say, the writing's bad and everybody should be ashamed, but you kind of feel even like, is it Aidan Gillen or Gillen? I'm assuming it's Gillen.
I think.
He's completely disinterested, and like, to his credit, as I said with him last week, like, he can be superb. There are moments in this show where he is,
as an actor, I quite like him.
Absolutely excellent, and he has real presence. But he is totally disinterested here. He is literally he's phoning it in the truest sense of the word. He doesn't care at all about the lines that are coming out of his mouth. He knows this is bad.
Not at all.
You know, it's atrocious. It is inexcusable and atrocious, and everyone needs to be ashamed. I'm ashamed that I watched it, to be honest. I should have just fast forwarded through it. But there you go.
Watch on mute is a bit more appealing than that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing, is like, they are screaming like porn stars as well. I can't imagine if you were watching this during your lunchtime in work, as you normally do. I can't imagine this was much fun.
No, to be fair, I wasn't in work on Friday, so I watched it Friday afternoon.
Oh, okay. So
that's quite lucky.
Not so bad then. Yeah.
No.
But, you know, just when you think that this episode couldn't get any fucking worse, here comes Theon fucking Greyjoy, just to seal the fucking deal. Absolutely insisting that he is to be addressed as Lord. Just what an absolute cunt.
Yeah, that's one. But to be fair, it's again, it's a writing point of view, but it's something that you do get. You would have had in medieval England, and it's probably throughout the books, and you do get it elsewhere. That they address Bran as Lord Stark, they address Robb as Lord Stark. So they do address the children of lords as lords and ladies, and that's fine. Now I can get on board with that with as world building. But is her name Osha or Osha?
Osha, like, isn't it? She hasn't actually been named yet. We don't realise at this point that she will become a recurring character.
Yeah, but she calls him on it straight away. He's like, "Well, my father's Lord of the Iron Isles. Well, what the fuck's that got to do with you?" And straight away you go, actually, yeah, she's got a point, because yes, okay, she's this thick, savage, north of the wall whore, but she fucking called him straight away.
Oh yeah, I mean, she's great in the scene. She's great in the show in general, but she's superb.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, and I mean, you look at that, and so again, she calls him out straight away, and because of that, and we see this nasty, aggressive streak we've seen from Theon week after week, where people aren't buying into his bullshit. They're not accepting that he's as important as he says he is, and so then he automatically he flips the switch and he's like, "No, you will do this. No, you'd be lucky to get out of here without being raped or worse to that effect." And then old Maester Lewin comes in and bucks him off.
And her response then is fantastic. There's genuine concern for her, and she just treats Theon with all the respect that he deserves, basically, and says,
"Yeah." as everybody else has all the way through the show.
Was it something like, I'm used to men that could chew that boy up and pick him out of their teeth or something like that is her line.
Yeah, pick their teeth with his bones.
So, fair play to her. And then, moreover, she then goes on to mention the fucking White Walkers. Finally, again.
Yes.
So, finally, 7 episodes
twice
in.
in 2 weeks. Yeah, twice in 2 weeks, because they mentioned, was it last week or the week before when they attacked Bran?
I think, wasn't it? Yeah.
So twice in 3 weeks.
Yeah. But apparently, mind you, they've been sleeping all of this time. Rubbish. Yeah. What kind of fucking zombies sleep?
But then again, because you look at the wildlings and the way they're still set up. They are set up as not quite primitive, but they're not civilized, and so they will have been brought up on superstitions and stuff like that. So that's the sort of thing you'd expect to hear from them. I think it's one of those that they're not actually sleeping. They're not actively attacking people at the moment. They're just kind of there. And when they're biding their time, and when the time comes, they're going to rip the fucking world in arsehole.
And then, then just to try and set up some form of tension after we get that story, we cut to the wall, and a horse comes back on its own, and it's Benjen's.
Yeah. Not just any horse, I say. Not just any horse. It's Benjen's horse.
I could be wrong, as I say. This is the first. My first rewatch, but I think this is pretty much the last we hear of Benjen now. I think this pretty much just gets jettisoned very fucking quickly.
For about 5 years.
To the point where when he actually came back, for a minute or two, I was like, who the fuck is that? And then I remembered. But
I had to Google it. So when we got to the episode where he does reappear.
Spoilers.
I had to Google who the fuck. Yeah, but by the time we get that far down, people have forgotten. But I had to Google who he was.
Yeah.
Because it was said as if you were supposed to know straight away who he was and what the backstory was. Like, I don't fucking know. I can't remember.
Yeah, terrible. But again, the way it's framed, it's like, that's Uncle Benjen's horse. Dun dun dun.
How the fuck could he tell that from the top of the wall?
Because he's got super eyesight or something, I suppose.
Because I'm fairly sure all black horses look the same.
Hey, that's fucking
racist against horses.
Seriously.
But from that high up, I'm sorry, I personally wouldn't be able to tell if that was your black horse or my black horse or Benjen's black horse, because it's too fucking far away.
Could be a middle-aged white horse masquerading as a black horse. Just saying.
Could be.
Just saying. If you know, you know. If you don't go looking for it.
If you don't know, consider yourself grateful.
So that scene just moves on, and we find out that Robert has been gravely wounded off fucking screen.
Oh, I know. This pissed me off the first time I saw it, when I was only half watching it and half playing FIFA. And then when I've rewatched it, I've gone,
that's just not on. That's not acceptable.
He died. You set him up as a major character from day one. The king rides north. You see all this stuff, all this backstory about the Mad King and the war, and all we've had alluded to the last 6 weeks is there's another war coming, and he dies off screen having been attacked by a fucking boar.
Now, this is typical of Game of Thrones and its attitude towards deaths, and as I've alluded to in the past, this is the first place I'm really going to get a chance to talk about it, is this episode. I've alluded to it in the past, but my biggest problem with the whole show is that they don't treat characters' deaths with the respect and the weight that they deserve.
No.
This is a character that has been in, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's been in every episode so far, even if just for a short period of time. He is the king. He is a person who has great sway over the events of the story. He has some serious dramatic weight, and you decide to gravely injure him off screen, and then eventually off him off screen. That is just wrong. I should have known at this point. At this point in my first watch through of the show, I should have been like, I've spent 7 hours with this motherfucker, and you're just going to kill him off screen. Fuck you. But I didn't.
But not only
I don't know why.
I mean, the whole thing of it, right, is that in last week's episode, he tells Ned he's going off to the hunt. Ned's going to be he's going to be in charge while he's away, sort of thing. So we know he's off on the hunt, and then we have this pointless scene later on where you can see he's having a drink while he's on the hunt, and he's arguing with everybody, and he's not really taking it that seriously. Okay, fine, but there's no real threat there. There's no imminent danger there. And then all of a sudden, you get Renly runs in to tell Sherlock Stark that the king's been mortally wounded by a boar. And then you go in and see him, and he's on his deathbed with this fucking massive, stinking, pussy, bloody bandage around him. And he's like, well, what the fuck happened to you? Oh, a boar got me. Well, how did it get you?
It's not treated with any respect whatsoever.
No. And like they tried to cover it with Robert saying, oh, I mistimed my swing and it got between me and my sword. Well, I'm sorry. That doesn't really mean anything. Unless you're somebody particularly adept at sword fighting, that doesn't mean fucking anything. Apart from was he drunk? Was it dark and he couldn't see it? Was there more than one of them? Was he distracted by something else? Give us detail.
As we find out shortly, there was a Lannister plot allegedly to fill him full of wine so that he was drunk to allow the boar to kill him.
That's again, if you're going to do that, I mean, we've talked about invisible poisons and shit like that already in this show. Why go to that convoluted effort of possibly a boar might get in?
Here's something even better than that. If you're going to do that, let us know. It's called drama, and we saw it last week, handled very well. You need to clue us into this shit. This is basic Chekhov's gun stuff. Like, show us what is going on so that we know what's happening.
Yeah, don't just tell us after the event.
No. Like, just, you only need to hint to us that this is what's happening, you know, and it would be fine, but you don't. So, it just feels cheap. It's horseshit. It's absolute horseshit. But then we get even more character turning on their heels because all of a sudden Ned is charged with ruling until Joffrey is of age, even though Ned has now said 2 or 3 times that he absolutely does not want to be king.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know he's technically not king.
Well, he'd still be regent, wouldn't he? So he still have the authority of the king.
Exactly. He would be regent. And he agrees to do it. Like, at this point, he's doing it just to spite Cersei, I think.
Well, at this point, you kind of think, well, if he's doing it, it gives him more time to uncover things and to get things set up properly until the rightful king can come in. However, he's already outlined his plot to Cersei, so that kind of goes out the window because she's going to look for any opportunity she can to fuck him off.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, she gets it within about 20 minutes.
Yeah. Awful. Just awful. And Robert's dying wish, his dying wish, mind you, is not look after my son, make sure he grows up to be an honourable man like you. You know, it's none of that. His dying wish is to let Dany, a woman he's never met and only ever heard about in stories, is to let her live, despite the advice of all of his council.
Yeah, and the fact he was so adamant, when he was in his right mind, he was so adamant that she had to die because she was a danger to the throne.
Yeah. So, again, complete heel turn. Total, like, from, yep, she has to die, to, oh, I'm dying now, so what does it fucking matter?
It doesn't affect me anymore, so bollocks to it.
Nonsense.
Yeah, absolute horseshit.
Nonsense. So yeah, then we get the revelation that the Lannisters have been feeding Robert wine prior to the hunt. Dun dun dun. Whatever. Get to fuck. We then get to probably the best stuff of the episode, to be fair, which is Dany mounting her bid for the throne.
Yeah.
Although even this is not particularly interesting at this point because it started and pretty much finished last week. Dany sort of became the character that she's going to become more or less last week. But you know, we get some good Jorah stuff, which is always good. You know, he's essentially pardoned, but has changed his mind. He's completely loyal to Dany now. He's made his mind up. He stuck his flag in the sand. But you know, he kind of knew that before he sold her out to begin with. So why even bother going down that road in the first fucking place? Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
No, none at all. None at all. I totally understand his decision to stay with her because his character from day one has always been besotted with her.
Yeah.
But why go down the avenue of him selling her out other than just so we can get this next scene, really?
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean...
Which is, again, stupid.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The only good thing out of the scene, and just to explain, it's a case of a wine seller trying to offer Danny a free sample of wine. Jorah comes in and insists that he drink it first. After his conversation about being pardoned, the guy refuses, and the only good thing to come out of the scene is the first real glimpse in Emilia Clarke's performance of the Dany that she will become. As I say, the story-wise, she got there last week, but we get it in the line. She commands this guy, "You will drink." And you see it in her eyes here. She is not fucking around.
Again, you get it in the performance, but you don't get it in the writing, because again, she just turned completely on a sixpence. She's there, she's having a laugh, she's having a joke. "Oh, you flatter me, sir. I can't do this, I can't do that." And then all of a sudden, Jorah comes in, says two words.
Yep.
It says "you" first, and all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, somebody's trying to kill. Something's wrong."
Yeah.
Hang on, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And again, the performance is spot on, but the way that's written, the way that scene is put together, it's absolutely fucking horrible.
Again, compared to last week, where every scene had a beginning, a middle, and an end, and crescendoed nicely. This is my next note, incidentally, in big capital letters, is God, this episode is fucking dull. So this is the point where I started looking at my watch, I think.
What, are we halfway through here?
Yeah, if that. And I'm just like, this felt dull. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more dull, we get probably the worst scene yet at the Wall, where we learn that Jon follows the old gods, and so needs to go out to the weirwood tree in order to make his pledge. Now, we've heard mention of the old gods and the new, and we've had probably over the last 7 episodes, I would say, a good 45 minutes of explanation of this is who this character is, and this is their house, and their house has this banner, and they wed so-and-so, and all of their children have blonde hair and brown hair. We've had nothing at all about what the old gods are and what the new gods are. Now, look, that's fine. This high fantasy world building bullshit does not interest me anyway. But if you're going to make a point out of it in this episode,
yes, I
need to understand why this is important. Because, quite frankly, it's not important at all. So,
yeah, and not only that, the only real conversation we've had about the old gods and the new previously was last week with Arya and Syria Farrell, where she says, "Oh, we worship the old gods and the new," and he says, "There's only one God, and that's the God of death."
Yeah. Now, to be fair, this will become very important, and especially to Jon, as the show goes on.
Yes.
But at this point in time, when you haven't given us any of this information,
absolutely
it means nothing whatsoever. And by the time it is important, I'd kind of forgotten anyway, again, because it's so unimportant and you haven't explained it to us.
Yeah, and it's delivered so bloody poorly as well.
Yeah, terrible. This scene is awful. And as I say, generally, whenever we're at the Wall, I'm all in. But this scene, no. Oh, and then Sam just decides he's going to follow the old gods as well.
Yeah, because fuck it, why not?
Jon should have missed his fucking call, and he should be a Jehovah's Witness, because seriously, that's the quickest I've ever seen anyone convert. Like, his fucking doorstep rate would be awesome.
It would. And I quite like the justification that Sam used as well. So, well, the new gods have never done anything, or the 7 gods have never done anything for me, so I'll give the other ones a try. So, well, yeah, I was Christian last week, it didn't work, so I'll be a Jew this week, I'll be a Sikh next week, and now, see what happens.
Interesting you say that, because I have a note written here, and I think it's later on, but we'll skip forward to it then. I've written down, is following the old gods equivalent to being Jewish? Because that's kind of how it feels.
Could be. I don't know. I haven't thought about it that much, to be honest.
I think following the old gods is essentially being Jewish, I think. So Jon's a Jew, apparently.
Well, so is his entire family, apparently.
Well, if we know. Well, the Starks are, I guess. So
yeah, well, Benjamin wasn't it? Benjamin followed the old.
Yeah. So
that's why. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't given it that much thought, to be honest. It just seems like because we haven't got to that part of the world yet, it seemed entirely pointless.
Yeah.
This isn't the way to introduce them. I mean, we had the tree at Winterfell in the first episode. There was the same species of tree. It didn't have the same significance.
Tree, isn't it? I believe they call them.
Something
I'm sure
like
it's a weirwood tree.
Yeah. So you have the scripts, and that obviously that would be significant way in the future. But no, there's very little about. Given how much they go into all the lore and all the mythology about dragons and all that sort of shit. Where is your religion?
Yeah.
No, you have.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We've had
like in season 5 you have the
about...
and that's the other one. Like Cersei makes reference to the mother.
Yeah.
Which is another fucking deity somewhere else and some other religion. And then when you get to season 5, I think is where you have the High Sparrow. They don't have the old gods and they just have the mother. And it's like all this stuff is important to somebody, and it was important enough to write it. Yeah, but they haven't bothered to explain where it's come from.
I've no doubt it's all in the books.
Yeah,
I'm not going to read the books. I'm really not that interested in it. As I say, I feel like if you're going to make a point of it in this episode and show me this, then you have to let me know why you are showing me this. Otherwise, you're just wasting my fucking time, to be honest. So show me something. Give me a fucking Arya scene, for Christ's sake.
Because she's not in this episode.
No, we'll get to that when I come to my conclusion.
That's only just twit.
Yeah, no, she's not in this episode at all, which is probably why it feels so fucking long and boring. Because
there's no lightness to it.
There's no Arya and there's no Tyrion. There's no comic relief in this episode whatsoever. The closest you get is Sam, and that's a different kind of comedy. But we'll get to that when we get to the end. So at this point then, somebody in the writing team seems to have confused Jon with Rob in terms of their characters, because all of a sudden Jon becomes an entitled, whiny little bitch, which he hasn't been at all thus far in the show. He's always been, and it's the reason the men follow him. He's been the guy that, yes, I'm highborn, but I'm one of you, and I will get stuck in. And that's why they followed him. He's one of them. Now all of a sudden, he seems to think that he deserves to be a ranger, and he flat out comes over as Luke Skywalker. He flat out, I always wanted to be a ranger. Well, tough shit, mate. I always wanted to be a fucking millionaire, and I'm not. So get on with it. Life stinks, you know?
But, I mean, given as well, he had a conversation with Benjen, I think, week 3, where he says about being ready, I'm ready, and Benjen says flat out, you're not ready until you're ready, and you won't get it until somebody thinks you deserve it. And that's we'd said at the time, that's a very good character beat for him, because all of a sudden he realises that actually, I can't afford to be like that, because that's not me anyway. Yeah. But if I come up be like that, I'm going to get stuck on latrine duty for the next 20 years.
Yeah. So what we actually learn...
I need to pay my dues.
Yeah, and what we actually learn, which, you got to be pretty thick to not realise what's going on here, is, yes, he's been passed over for a spot in the Rangers, but he is going to be Mormont's steward. Yeah. And it is, if you didn't realise, it's even said, like, essentially Mormont is grooming him here to be the next Lord Commander of the Night Watch. Yeah. Like... He sees the potential in him. He just needs to be patient. But he can't be. And it just feels, again, for a character, it feels wrong. The only good thing about the scene, Sam's comeback is hilarious. It made me do a spit take, and it's the best thing in this entire episode. Jon's line, I always wanted to be a ranger. Sam responds, well, I always wanted to be a wizard.
Yeah,
and he delivers it with such conviction. He absolutely nails it.
Yeah, and as I said, it's that type of comedy with Sam, isn't it? It just diffuses any situation completely and instantly.
Yeah, I literally spat coffee. It's excellent. Absolutely, like MVP of this episode. Totally goes to Sam. Like completely saves what was otherwise a horrible scene.
Yes.
That again makes no character sense. There's a lot of that in this episode. We get some mention of Stannis. I think this might be the first real mention or description of Stannis that we get.
Yeah, his name comes up. His name has come up once before. I think it came up during the scene at the hunt with Robert and Renly last week. I think his name was mentioned, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
Whereas now we're getting to the point where, okay, well, if Joffrey isn't the heir, then Stannis is the heir because he's Robert's older brother. He's the next in the line of succession.
Yes, because Ned's having a conversation about it here, and I've written here that Ned really is honourable to the point of fucking stupidity. Like,
well, I'm not being funny again, but like we've talked about this before. I think it was when they went to see Gendry at the Foundry. You don't have these conversations in fucking public.
No, you really don't.
So Renly approaches you and says, "No, make me king.
Yeah,
let's launch a coup against the Lannisters. Let's keep the throne with the Baratheons because they're going to fuck it up."
Yeah.
You don't have that conversation
no.
in a hallway in King's Landing. I'm sorry, you don't do it.
There's two things with this scene. One, as I say, this just doesn't fly at all, because I don't care how honourable you are, as you say, you don't have that conversation. And there is a point where self-preservation is going to come above honour for everyone.
Yeah.
And Ned here is just acting so recklessly, like he is honourable to the point of stupidity. And then, moreover, if he really was an honourable person and wanted to see the right thing done by everybody, kind of like Jaime Lannister would, then stop being such a stubborn prick. Like, literally, if Ned wasn't being such a stubborn bastard about the Lannisters here, he could stop all of this before it even starts. The whole show could end here. But he doesn't. He doesn't.
Yeah, just doesn't fly. It doesn't make any sense.
No. But there you go. Next scene, my most excitable comment of the episode. Yay, direwolf. So, there is some good in this episode. We get some Ghost. It's not just any direwolf. We get to see Ghost, who's obviously the best direwolf. So,
Well, he's the only one we still see.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Now, Lady's dead. Namira's been sent off in the wilderness. Summer is stuck with Bran doing fuck all. And we haven't seen... fucking Shaggy Dog since day one.
Yeah.
I feel like I missed one.
I don't know, but Ghost is the best anyway.
Yeah. Oh, Rob's direwolf, who I can't even fucking remember what that one was. But yeah, so no, Ghost is the only one who actually does anything ever.
Yeah, he really is. This is where I've written my note about is following the old gods, like being Jewish or something. We've had that discussion. Then we're back over to Dothrak with.
Well, no, before that, the scene ends. So they do their ritual prayer to the old gods or whatever it is, and they're all hugging and might as well be about to shag. And then Ghost turns up with a severed hand.
Oh yeah, that's right. So he does. Yeah.
From fucking nowhere, this severed hand, and we find out nothing about it.
No, we don't actually. It's just dropped, isn't it? I had forgotten that even happened because it's just dropped. Yeah.
It's just dropped, and then I don't believe we actually hear anything about this severed hand ever.
Excellent. Good writing.
Is the assumption supposed to be that it's Benjen's hand? Because his horse has come back, so maybe he's dead.
Yeah, I thought at the time maybe it was Benjen's hand. That was the insinuation I got.
But again, if you're going to have this in the scene, make something of it. Give it a reason to be there.
Yeah, agreed. Total bullshit. Unlike there is an awesome Jorah moment here when we go back to Dothrak. There is the odd good thing in this episode. Mostly it's horseshit though. But again, we get some wonderful stuff from Jorah. I said last week about how I can't wait for his Batman. And here's another example of that where he's having a conversation with Dany, and she says he will not have my son, and Jorah's response, and he fucking means every word of it, is he will not have you either, Khaleesi. And like the world just needs to be afraid of this man. Like you get the impression he could take you apart piece by piece. Like,
well, yeah, and I mean we haven't seen
him fight
a lot. We haven't seen him do anything yet. I mean, we've seen little snippets of this type of character, but we haven't seen him sword in hand and actually doing anything yet. No. And it's going to be a while until we do. But when you do,
and that all comes over in his delivery. It reminds me of, like, this line just throws me back to the Dark Knight Returns where Batman's talking about that he's having a fight and he's talking about being an operating table and he's the surgeon.
Yeah.
And he's describing every move as he does it. And this line just conjures that for me, where he could just systematically take you apart, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And it's all there in his delivery. And then then Khal Drogo comes in and he's annoyed, and I've just written, nice work, Robert, you've pissed off Aquaman.
But again, I mean, it shows the sort of the level of culture, the level of respect that's given to the Dothraki, is that his thing to Jorah is, oh, you said yes. I owe you everything. Pick whichever horse you want. It's yours.
Yeah.
Gold, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. No.
Couple of women. Yeah. So you've got them in spades anyway. They're all there and dancing around with their tits out. So give them a couple of them, maybe.
But what it also essentially says now is that, I mean, we knew this anyway because we've had the scene with Jorah comparing swords, quite literally. But we kind of in the same way. But he's had it from Khal Drogo, like essentially, you're good people, you're one of us. Nobody is fucking with you. At this point, he is.
Well, yeah, that's it. And obviously, I mean, we've been told the thing about him being a slaver, and we've had the two different versions of that story. And obviously, we now know that he's. We've known for a couple of weeks that he's a traitor as well. He's spying on Daenerys. So again, it kind of adds a little bit of weight to that side of things, where you think, he's a badass, but he's still a duplicitous little fucker at this point. Because and given what's going to come shortly, in terms of who you can trust in the show, I think it's very difficult that where you get a character who's portrayed as being very dishonest from day one.
Yeah,
he's a slaver, he's a braggart, he's a sellsword, he's a spy, he's a traitor, whatever. So they're setting him up straight away in the exact opposite way they're setting up other characters who would shank you as soon as look at you. Yeah,
and it's a shame, really, because I feel that does him a disservice, because that's something that's never really carried through with his character.
No, that's right.
It's not like there's a whole level of his character there to play with. It's just not carried through. It's dropped like a ton of bricks, and it's already been dropped, more or less.
Yeah.
Stupid, and it's a shame because he is such a good character. One note I've got here, and this may just be on my Blu-rays, there is a scene now with Khal Drogo sort of just sort of rallying his troops, saying how they're going to ride across the sea and take King's Landing and this and that, and it's all subtitled. He's speaking in Dothraki and it's subtitled. However, on my DVD, I also get, after his lines, in brackets, subtitled, men cheering, men clapping.
I don't remember seeing that, I'm going to be honest.
I think in authoring the DVDs, instead of actually showing you the subtitles on screen, they're showing you the closed captions.
Maybe.
It just made me laugh, but it pulled me straight out of the scene. So I'm sure the scene might have been better than I'm giving it credit for, because it seems like a good scene, to be fair.
It is quite a big scene, and I think, again, from what I've been reading about it, Jason Momoa has been roundly lauded for his intensity and the way he delivers the scene. And if you're being dragged out of it by poor rendering and unnecessary captioning, that's quite unfortunate.
It is. It is really. But and when I say dragged out of it, I got back into the scene, but just every time that came up, it made me laugh.
Yeah.
So shame, really. Cock is my next note. Just cock! ! Full frontal penis.
Not the first time.
No, not the first time, but still surprising to see on television.
Yeah, but it's not primetime regular TV, is it?
I don't know why, because we've had plenty of tits and vag.
But we had Theon's cock as well, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago?
We did. Well, Theon is one great big gigantic cock.
Yeah, but
to be fair. Then next story beat, really, we learned that Renly has fled. Coward.
Yeah.
He's taken Iron Fist with him and fucked off to be Iron Fisted, presumably.
Maybe he's going to do a bit of Iron Fisting, who knows?
Maybe. I don't know who's who in that. Maybe I get the impression from their relationship that they're fairly equal. So,
yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
Who actually cares, let's be fair.
Yeah, nobody. Who gives a fuck about Renly, full stop?
Well, Brienne of Tarth eventually, but yeah.
Yeah, seriously, couldn't care less. Then we get to the final scene in the throne room. Joffrey's sat on the throne. Cersei's next to him, and she's done her fucking hair.
Yes.
She has been waiting for this. She has been waiting for Robert to die off screen so she can go and get a new do.
But she does that quite often. She can be in two consecutive scenes which are set immediately after each other. She has a different fucking hairdo, a different wardrobe.
Yeah. Anyway, we get the information that Robert's died off screen. Joffrey sat on the throne, essentially waiting to give commands. We have skipped over a slight scene from earlier where Ned and Littlefinger are discussing how they're going to play this. And Littlefinger mentions that when there's no king, the man with the army will control the man with the money will control the army, insinuating that he has the money, which of course he does.
Yes.
So, in marches Ned with his letter that's been written by Robert saying that Ned is to be the regent. hands it to Barristan, doesn't? Yeah. Calling him out to be honourable, which he is. He reads the letter up. Cersei then comes down off her fucking throne and goes full panto villain.
Yes.
Tearing the fucking letter up as if she wasn't able to convey her distaste for this move just with her dialogue. She has to tear the letter up into little pieces.
Yeah.
Like she's just missing the Dr. Evil finger at her mouth at this point. And oh look, Littlefinger's fucking sold Ned out and he's got a knife to his throat and the whole army's turned on him. Well, I never saw that coming. Honest.
No. And the biggest kick in the nuts is when, that's it, the last line you get in the episode where Littlefinger says, I did warn you not to trust me. And Sean Bean's face.
Oh, it's horrible.
I can't tell whether he's acting or he's just like, that's a really fucking horrible line. I can't believe you said that, you absolute cockweasel.
And it's done in a real tight close-up as well.
Yeah.
In a completely unmotivated cut. It's horrible.
It is.
It looks like amateur hour.
It does, but then, as I say, you get that really shitty line from Littlefinger. Ned's face sort of half drops, and it cuts to black for the credits. I was like, seriously? That's it?
Yeah.
I've been waiting an hour for something to happen. You insinuate something's going to happen, and then you cut to black. What the actual fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, what the fuck? I totally agree. And especially since, like, let's be honest, we've seen this come in all episode. Like,
we've seen this come in all fucking season.
Ned, in this episode, Ned is like a fucking victim in a slasher movie. Like, I am literally screaming at the TV, like, stop being such a fucking moron.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, don't run up the stairs, Ned. Yeah, exactly. You took the words out of my mouth. This is running up the stairs. That's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's awful. You may as well tell him he's going to be right back. Like,
yeah, that's it.
Seriously. Ugh, horrible. Okay, so in closing out my notes, what a fucking mess of an episode.
Yeah.
After last week's episode, that's the worst thing, is because last week's was so good, this does seem worse. I'm sure, in fairness, if last week's had been consistent of the level that the two prior to it were, then maybe this wouldn't have seemed so bad. But the problem is, when you have such dizzying highs, is you also get crashing lows, and this is one of them. You know, last week was pacey, it was action-packed. Look, I've spoken, I'm not going to go on and on again about Jane Spencer, but it was just well written. And this week, instead, we get just the whole fucking politics and the pomp and circumstance of King's Landing, and it just feels turgid here. Like, I remember, and I said it back at the start of this episode, I remember, or at least perhaps it's nostalgia, I don't know, but I remember looking back on this season and thinking I actually quite enjoyed all of the politics of King's Landing. And when we were sort of in season 4 and 5, I was like, what happened to this show? Where was that little Sherlock Stark storyline when everything felt sort of claustrophobic and tighter? And
yeah,
I think maybe nostalgia was doing it a very high level of service, in that it
Quite
felt
possibly,
a lot better than it is. Because I've written here that, like, look, can we just get this fucking season over already? Because I am so fucking bored of Ned Stark now. I really am. Like, he's a fucking moron. And he's boring. Like, I don't care about anything going on with Ned at all anymore. Like, his whole storyline could have been wrapped up in 3 episodes at a push.
Yeah, could have been. And I mean, I've got big issues with... Yeah, I've got big issues with next week's episode, and I know that events from next week's episode are taken from the book, but for me, it's probably the biggest example so far of the writers jumping the shark.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that next week. I mean, in terms of the,
I don't feel like they've jumped the shark yet. They've annoyed me, but again, for those of you that don't know where this goes, and I can't believe that's many of you, but at this point now, rewatching it, I obviously we're peeking behind the curtains now, which, you know, I guess I wasn't doing on the first watch through because I didn't know where it was going. But sort of, you know, when you see The Wizard of Oz, then you kind of think we really are just spending all of this time with Ned just so that later events feel weightier than they need be.
and that's my problem. But we'll
his story could be done in 3 episodes, and it could end the same way that it ends, and the show could move on the same way that it moves on. But I think this season would be so much pacier for it. And we're just elongating the inevitable here. And it's bad. Moreover, Tyrion and Arya are absent, and their absence is really fucking felt in this episode. It really is. The episode's just so fucking dry and miserable. And just, I think in general, I've said about Ned's storyline could be wrapped up earlier, and I just think for what we actually get out of this episode in terms of furthering the narrative and we further no characters here at all. Some of them actually take a step back, others just remain on the same level. But for what this actually does for the story, like, you could have done this whole episode in like 20 minutes tops.
Yeah. Well, I mean, saying that, I mean, we talked about the writing as well. I mean, I think it was 2 weeks ago, on the wiki page, it tells you what chapters have been converted for the episode.
Yeah.
And I say converted, not adapted, because it's not an adaptation, for my money. But there were sort of 8 or 9 in that episode. There were 5 in this episode.
There you go.
There were only 5 chapters, so I mean, it feels like a slog. And then they added in the sequence with Tywin slaughtering, butchering the beast, and Littlefinger's auditions. They were added in, and the reason you get the impression that the Tywin scene would have appeared somewhere else in a different way, but without the interesting visual or the distraction of the animal, which takes away from the fact it's a really fucking pointless scene. And then Littlefinger, again, it's just titillation for the sake of titillation, and it doesn't add anything to the story.
The episode would be much better without that scene. Removing it would actively improve the episode.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, that's the Tywin Jaime scene. It introduces the characters. He's pragmatic. He's functional. He's very capable, and he's a bit of a dick. But you didn't need him butchering the animal. The only reason it's there is because it's a fucking boring scene without it. Yeah,
totally.
And I mean, it shows those are the 2 that have been added in. They're not based on anything. They've been thrown in by the show writers as opposed to George R. R. Martin. And it kind of shows, it sets the tone for the episode very, very poorly.
It does, and it comes back to something that I'm sure we're going to mention several times, and I know we've mentioned once or twice already over the course of the podcast, is that when you adapt material from one medium to another, like, you don't have to stick to it absolutely rigidly. The whole point is that this is a different medium, so you can adapt, you can move scenes around, you can add characters, you can condense characters, you can give us the information in a different way. You need to play to the strengths of the medium, and they really don't do that at all. It's infuriating. It really is. We don't have to hear about every little narrative point of the books. We just need the important stuff.
Yeah, but again, that's not what they do, and that's a problem we've had time and time again, and we'll continue to have. Yeah. Especially when the series overtakes the books.
Oh God!
And then they kind of go, "Oh, what the fuck we doing?" And then it all kind of goes awry.
Yeah. To be fair, I disagree with a lot of the directorial choices at that point, aside from the last episode. But I do think that in terms of its execution, the show works better after that point.
I think it becomes more polished and becomes tighter. The problem is, because we've had 5 years of it meandering the way it does, it's such a step change that even if it is better, it feels as though it's being forced.
It does, and the actual character U-turns and just dispatching of people left, right, and centre just gets worse at that point.
Yeah,
whole storylines just get jettisoned without any explanation whatsoever when we get there. But we'll get there in God knows how many weeks' time yet. We've still got 3 fucking episodes of this season to go. This feels like a chore now.
Yeah, this seems like a good idea at the time. I mean, this is going to be next week. I've got a lot to say, and then the last 2, I don't know. I gotta be honest, I don't know if I do. We'll see when we get there.
I as will be sort of accounted for with the running time of this episode compared to the others, but in terms of our recording, like, I've got very little to say about this week because there's nothing to say. It's flat out bad TV this week, and it's worse than that. fucking boring. There's nothing interesting to discuss here. It's boring.
Yeah, I'd say that's...
and that's probably the worst thing I can say about it.
I think in any episodic show, mid-season, you always have a bit of a lull. But we should, we're episode 7 of 10 now. We should be out of mid-season and into...
We should be ramping up. Yeah.
Ramping up, and it's only the last 4 or 5 minutes of this episode where you actually get any sort of intrigue or any interest. By which point, A, it's too late, and B, it's handled so bloody poorly, you don't actually care.
No. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
And I don't really know where else to go with it. I mean, it was a slog to watch. It's a slog to recount because there's so many problems with it. There's nothing we can there's nothing we can really sort of add to it, I don't think.
No, nothing at all. The stuff in Dothrak is good.
Yeah.
Stuff at the wall is not great, but we're at the wall, so I give it a pass because it's visually interesting and I like the characters. The rest of it just absolutely fucking blows. Absolutely blows.
I think that's probably the best way to sum it up. If you disagree with us, as always, get in touch. We're on Facebook with the Double Down Podcast Network, on Twitter at ddpodcastnet. Go to our website, ddpodcast.net. You can find previous episodes of this show. You can find our other shows by other people as well. Have a listen, let us know what you think. By all means, come at us because I'm struggling at this point. We're getting to the end of season 1, and I'm struggling to find the upside. I really am.
Yeah, me too. This is a low. This is a low point, I think.
Yeah, hopefully it'll pick up next week. But till then.
Game over.